Welcome to Band Stories channel where we talk about the best bands of all time. Today we will be talking about the Beatles. So sit back, relax, and join us on this exciting musical journey. The Beatles are one of the most iconic and influential bands in the history of music. With their unique blend of pop, rock, and psychedelia, the Beatles captured the hearts of millions of people around the world. In this video, we will explore all aspects of the band that made them so special and influential. The Beatles' story began in Liverpool, England, when John Lennon and Paul McCartney met at school in 1957, when they were respectively 16 and 15 years old. The school in question was Quarry Bank High School in Liverpool, England. It was there that the two young musicians became friends and began playing together, forming what would become one of the greatest bands of all time, the Beatles. George Harrison and Ringo Starr soon joined them to form a band that initially played in local clubs. Over time, the band became more well-known and started recording their first singles. The Beatles' music is undoubtedly one of the main reasons why they became so popular. From their early pop songs, such as Love Me Do and Please Please Me, to their more experimental songs, such as A Day in the Life and Strawberry Fields Forever, the Beatles always innovated and created something unique. Love Me Do is a Beatles song released in 1962. It was written by Paul McCartney and John Lennon, and is considered the band's first successful song. The song features a simple but catchy sound, with the harmony of Paul and John's voices and the unique sound of Lennon's harmonica. The release of Love Me Do was a milestone in the Beatles' career, as the song achieved great success in the British music charts, reaching number 17 on the singles chart. The song was also released on the album Please Please Me in 1963 and became a huge success in the United States, boosting the band's career in the international market. The lyrics of Love Me Do are simple but sincere, with Paul McCartney asking a girl to love him and saying he will do anything she asks. The song became one of the Beatles' biggest hits at the time and is considered one of the band's most iconic songs. To this day, it is remembered as one of the Beatles' early successes and as one of the most emblematic songs of the 1960s. Their music has a mix of catchy lyrics, vocal harmonies, and addictive melodies that are still loved by people of all ages. Over time, the Beatles' music changed and evolved. From their early pop songs to their more experimental and psychedelic sound on their later albums, the Beatles were always ahead of their time. The lyrics of their songs also reflected the cultural and political changes of the time, such as the Vietnam War and the fight for civil rights. The Beatles' influence on music and popular culture is undeniable. They inspired countless bands and musicians, and are often considered the band that changed music forever. Their lifestyle, fashion, and behavior also had a significant impact on popular culture. The Beatles' mode of dress was very influential in the fashion of the 1960s. The appearance of the band members was considered very modern and rebellious for the time, and many young people were inspired by their style. Initially, in the early years of the band, the Beatles wore slim-cut suits and thin ties, as was common for musicians of their time. However, as their popularity grew and their music evolved, the Beatles' style of dress also changed. From 1965, the Beatles started wearing more colorful and extravagant clothes, often designed by fashion designers such as Mary Quant and Pierre Cardin. They wore high-collared clothes, leather jackets, boots, sunglasses, and longer hair. John Lennon, in particular, was known for his eccentric clothes and messy hair. The Beatles' style was a major influence on 1960s fashion and continues to be a source of inspiration for fashion to this day. Their unique and bold look reflected the cultural change that was happening at the time and helped define the Beatles' image as icons of counterculture and rebellious youth. Each band member also had a unique personality that contributed to the Beatles' success. John Lennon was the creative leader, Paul McCartney was the master of melody, George Harrison was the talented guitarist, and Ringo Starr was the charismatic drummer. Together, they formed a team that became one of the most loved and respected bands in the world. The Beatles' films and documentaries are also an important part of the band's history. Films such as A Hard Day's Night and Help showed the band at their peak, while Yellow Submarine was an animated film that became a classic of pop culture. A Hard Day's Night is a British musical comedy film released in 1964, starring the Beatles members John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr. The film, directed by Richard Lester, follows the Beatles on a series of adventures as they prepare for a television performance. The film was a great success, both commercially and critically, and is considered a landmark in the history of cinema and music. The soundtrack, composed entirely of Beatles songs, became one of the band's most popular albums and includes iconic tracks such as A Hard Day's Night, Can't Buy Me Love, and I Should Have Known Better. A Hard Day's Night was praised for its light and charming humor, as well as its innovative approach to music and cinema. The film is considered one of the best rock films ever made and inspired a generation of filmmakers and musicians. In addition to its critical and commercial success, A Hard Day's Night is notable for showcasing the Beatles' unique and charismatic personality, capturing the essence of the band in their youth and animation. To this day, it is a cinema classic and an essential part of the history of pop music. The legacy of the Beatles is still strong today. Their music continues to be listened to by people of all ages and still influences new musicians. Popular culture is still influenced by their fashion, lifestyle, and music. In summary, the Beatles were one of the most important and influential bands in the history of music. Their music, unique personalities, films and documentaries, and influence on pop culture are still celebrated today. If you haven't fallen in love with the Beatles yet, you will certainly find something in the band's history that will win you over. And so we end another incredible episode here on the Band Stories channel. I hope you enjoyed following the Beatles story with us and discovering how their music changed the world. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any exciting episodes like this one. And if you have any suggestions for bands or artists you'd like to see here, leave a comment below. Until next time, here on the Band Stories channel, where music meets history.